أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome everybody to our weekly Talimul-Quran class. We will start our session with the opening prayer. So I'm going to select somebody to read the opening prayer. I think I'll take L217. Assalamu alaikum. L217. L217, are you there? Okay, let's try L220.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Could you please read the highlighted prayer over here?
Okay. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a.
Jazakillah. And the translation as well.
ऐ मेरे अल्लाह मैं तुझसे नफा बख्श इल्म का सवाल करता हूँ. O Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge. Ibn Majah.
Jazakillah. Thank you very much. That was really well read. L220. So we are going to start our lesson today with another exercise similar to what we did last week. So if anyone wasn't able to attend the lesson last week, you can access it via the NQC website. So if you go to the class recordings on nqc.org.uk, and then you go to Tarteel Classes, LQC Talimul-Quran Class 2018 class recordings. You can just click on that, and the 2 weeks of lessons that we've done currently, they've both been uploaded, so you can catch up if you haven't been able to see either of those. So we did an analysis of one of the Quranic verses. So we did chapter 5 verse 76 last time, and today we'll be doing chapter 3 from Surah Al Imran, and this is verse 135. So the first step for this analysis is for us to firstly understand all of the rules of recitation which occur within this verse, so chapter 3. And the second step after that is for you to go away and try to memorize this verse, and also the verse which we did last week. And the final step is then to understand the meaning behind the meaning and the translation behind this verse and the previous verse. And as I mentioned last week, the verse that we covered from Surah Al-Ma'idah was in relation to the death of Hazrat Jesus alayhi salam. So from a tabligh perspective, the verses which we're studying in these classes, they are very important, which is why I would definitely encourage you to not only pay attention to the rules which come up in the recitation, but also to memorize that, and then inshallah after that to learn the meaning and the commentary behind them as well. So this is our verse in focus, verse 145, and I'll just again go through the translation very quickly so we have an idea of what this verse is talking about. So the translation is in English is as follows: and Muhammad is only a messenger. Verily all messengers have passed away before him. If then he die or be slain, will you turn back on your heels? And he who turns back on his heels shall not harm Allah at all, and Allah will certainly reward the grateful. So this is just so you can have an idea of what the verse is relating to. We will go on to analyze the various rules which come up in the recitation. So again, because it's quite a long verse, we've split it up into about 5 parts, just so we can individually analyze each part. So if we start with the first part, we have وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. So within this verse, we have a few rules. As I mentioned in the lesson last week, there are 2 different colors that we're using to kind of categorize the rules. So those which are in red are those which are the basic rules, which are extremely important, and without mastering these rules in red, it's not possible to move on to the more advanced rules which are in green. So we would definitely do not want to compromise on these rules at all that are in red. So we can see the first point which is highlighted in red is the alif, which is joined to the meme over here. And we know from our basic rules that this is an example of simple elongation with the asli. And we know that this is going to be prolonged for 2 seconds. So we want to make sure it's no more and no less than 2 seconds. So very simply, wama. Wow over here, because it only carries the fatha stroke, we only want to give it 1 second, and ma, we will give 2 seconds. So this is a basic rule which hopefully you should all be familiar with. This will be 2 seconds. Following this, we have over here it hasn't been highlighted in green, but just has an arrow. So attached to this meme over here is the ha, and it's been given a green box because this is one of those letters which is commonly mispronounced in Arabic, because it bears some similarity to the other letter ha. It's just important for you to remember that this ha is a little bit sharper than the basic ha over here. So it's important to make a difference between ha and ha. So this will be Muhammadun, Muhammadun. So yes, that's the first point regarding the correct articulation of this letter. The second, the next point, which has been highlighted here in red, you can see, is the meme mushaddad. And again, this is one of our basic rules. And you can see that because in relation to this rule, we are going to do 2 things. First, we're going to produce a ghunna sound, a nasal sound. And the second thing is we are going to maintain that sound for at least 2 seconds. So that will be Muhammadun, Muhammadun. So we want that stress on the meme because of the shadda, and equally we also want to produce that nasal sound. So it will be Muhammadun. So far we will read it as Wama Muhammadun. The next point, which is in relation to this dal over here, which carries the tanveen of dhamma, which we call dhammatain. This is going to be pronounced in a clear manner and a very short manner. And the reason for that is because we covered this, we did refer to this in last week's lesson. So if I just go back to that, just to revise over it. So when we have a noon sakin, so a noon which carries sukoon, such as over here, or we have a tanveen of fatha dhamma kasra, when we have either of those and they are followed by any of these letters, so alif or hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, and kha, in that situation, that noon or that tanveen sound is read in a very clear manner. So for example, here we have yan'awna rather than yan'awna. So we don't prolong that noon, it's just clear and short. The next one, yanha, an'amta, wanhar, etc. So because this noon sakin is followed by any of these letters, for that reason we're going to be reading it in a clear way. So you can see in here we have the dhammatain followed by the letter alif. So we see that alif is one of those letters which we in which we pronounce it clearly. So for that reason, Muhammadun illa, not Muhammadun illa, that would be incorrect. According to this rule, this will be Muhammadun illa. So tanveen will be short and clear, and we call this izhar. The next point which we have is another example of madda asli. So we have simple elongation again because we have the alif madda following the lam mushaddad. So this as well will be 2 seconds. So we have wama 2 seconds and illa 2 seconds as well. Let's move on to the next one. So this is one of our rules regarding the thick letters which we covered in our first online session. And this is regarding the rule in relation to the letter ra. So because it's carrying the fatha stroke, it's going to be pronounced in a thick manner. And again, if I just refer back to this just for the purpose of revision. So we remember that ra is thick when it carries a fatha, a dhamma, and also if it carries a sukoon, but if it's preceded by a fatha dhamma or an alif. So in all of these cases, we are going to be reading ra in a thick manner. The next point we have over here is waw madda. Again, this is our basic rule. Just remember this is also, this can be 2 seconds, but also sometimes with the beautification during recitation, it can be prolonged for up to 4 seconds. So 2 seconds or 4 seconds. And the final point which we have over here is a permissible stop. And this is a small gene, which you can see over here. So what I will do is I'm just going to recite this part of the verse on its own, and then we will get some of you to recite also. So this will be read as وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. So 2 seconds, remembering to put emphasis on mim mushaddad, clear tanveen over here, 2 seconds, thick letter, 2 or 4 seconds, and pausing over here. So let me select a few students to have a go at reciting this. So if I take L219, Assalamu alaikum, L219. Wa alaikum assalam. Would you like to have a go at reciting the above part of the verse?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما محمد إلا رسول.
Brilliant. The only point I would say is make the ha a little bit sharper. Muhammadun.
May I try again?
Yes, of course.
وما محمد إلا رسول.
Yes, that was brilliant. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much, L219. Let's have someone else. So let me try L221. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Would you like to have a go at reciting this?
Yes, please. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما محمد إلا رسول.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. L221. Let's have one more. So we have L225. Assalamu alaikum, L225.
Walaikum salam.
Would you like to have a go at reciting?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما محمد إلا رسول.
Just read from Illa one more time. Just from here, please.
إلا رسول.
Okay. I think in trying to make it thick, it sounds a bit like a dhamma on the ra. So just try Illa Rasul.
إلا رسول.
Okay, that was better. And also again, just the sharpness on the ha needs to be a little bit more emphasized. Muhammadun.
Muhammadun.
Jazakumullah, that was a lot better. Thank you very much. Thank you to all that have recited. That was well done. I think this is the most common point is with the ha, which takes some practice, but inshallah it will get better. Let's move on to the second part of the verse. So we have in this all which are advanced rules, and then we have the final point over here. So if we start with the beginning, very simply, we learnt again in our first session, qaf is going to be thick. We also have kha, which is going to be thick. Qaf again, which is going to be thick, and ra, which is going to be thick. So I think our thick letters are quite well established by now. The point that I'll come back to over here is the dal sakin. So dal, which is carrying the sukoon. So we have to remember here we create that jerking sound. So it will be qad, qad. So not just qad, but qad. We want to vibrate that dal, the dal sakin. The reason for that is, again, referring back to our rules, we have our 5 letters which produce a jerking sound when they bear the sukoon. They can be in the middle of the word, they can be at the end of the word, but the important thing is that we remember to vibrate that sound. So we have iq, sat, ib, aj, jid, riq, hit, ghab, ruj, had. So again, just bearing it in mind to create that jerking sound on the dal sakin in this part of the verse. The next point over here is going to be a light nasal sound, a light ghunna, and this will be held for 2 seconds. And the reason for this is because we have again our noon sakin, and this time it isn't followed by any of those letters which we discussed earlier. So it isn't any of these. It's not alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Because of that, with the rest of the letters, we are going to read it with a light nasal sound. So we have over here min qablihi. Min qabli. So we want to produce light nasal sound and hold that sound for at least 2 seconds. The next point over here, again, we have a ba, and we know that ba is one of those letters which we will vibrate when it's carrying the sukoon. So it will be qablihi, qablihi. Again, remembering the qaf will be read in a thick manner. The final point over here is we have again our ra mushaddad. So not only is it going to be read thick because of the dhamma, we are also going to put extra emphasis on it because of the shadda which it carries. So more stress. So it will be qablihi rusul. So thickness and stress on the ra. There was a question in the lesson, I believe last week, and that was regarding what is meant by having a meaningful pause. So this pause over here, the best way to explain it is to say that this is, I guess, the preferred place to pause, which is best in line with the translation. So it's where the meaning is completely understandable according to the translation. So this is why it's referred to as a meaningful pause or a perfect pause. So it's basically a preferred place in relation to the meaning of the text of the Holy Quran. So bearing in mind that we can make a pause, it's not compulsory, it is optional, but you have the choice basically. For example, if you want to stop for a breath, this is a good place to make a pause according to the meaning of the verse. So again, I will recite just this part, and then we will have a few of you to read. قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. So this time, if I ask L224 to have a go at reciting, oh sorry, L224 has already read, so let's have, actually no, you haven't read. Let's try L224. Okay, I think there's a problem with unmuting the microphone, so I'll come back to you. Let's have L230.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Could you have a go at reciting this, please?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
Excellent, that is really well done. Jazakallah. Thank you, L230. Let's have L241. Assalamu alaikum, L241. L241, are you there? Okay, no, let's try L228. Assalamu alaikum, L228. Would you like to have a go at reading?
قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
Okay, good. Just over here, a bit more of a nasal sound. من قبله.
من قبله.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Jazakumullah. Thank you, L228. Let's have one more. So if we have L236. Assalamu alaikum, L236.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Would you like to have a go at reciting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
Jazakumullah, that was really well done. Thank you very much. Let's move on to our next part of the verse. So this has got quite a few of our basic rules and also our advanced rules. So if we start from the very beginning, we have over here, we have a basic fatha stroke, which is on the alif. Over here, we have an example of what we call an alif, which will not be heard in recitation. So it's been written as unvocal alif here. So this is what we call alif zaida, or excessive alif. And essentially what you just need to know is that when it bears the cross, it will not be heard in recitation. So that means that this fa over here will not be read as fa, not 2 seconds, but as just a fatha stroke 1 second. So basically alif and fa, they will be the same amount of time, afa, afa. So just bear in mind, whenever you see this cross appear over an alif, that means that it won't be heard in recitation. The next point that has been written again is one of our basic rules. So this is our nun sakin, which is followed by our mim mushaddad over here. This is going to be complete assimilation. So that means that we will not hear the nun sakin which appears here. We are simply joining this hamza with kasra directly with the mim mushaddad. And when doing that, we're going to produce a slight nasal sound, and we are also going to hold that sound for 2 seconds. So it will be afa imma. So stress on that alif and producing a nasal sound for 2 seconds. So the point which follows after, which you hopefully heard in the recitation, is also making sure that we prolong this alif over here. This is our simple elongation, mad asli, and this will be 2 seconds. So again, I will read afa imma, 2 seconds. We have ta, which is just fatha, 1 second. Following this alif over here, this is an example of our waw leen. And basically this is going to be a soft elongation for 2 seconds. So here we have alif madda, which is just a prolonged sound of ma. Over here, this is going to be a soft elongation, so the alif sound will be blended over the waw sakin. So this will be aw, aw, 2 second soft elongation. The next point, which is highlighted, qaf over here, and also qaf over here, and also qaf over here. So these 3 qafs, we know, again, these are our thick letters. So qu, qa, and qa. So all of these examples of qaf will be read in a thick or broad manner. Just bear in mind the timings on this. So this will be 1 second, 1 second, and then this lam over here will be joined to the noon sakin, which follows. So when joining this lam with this noon sakin over here, again, we have to consider what follows the noon sakin. So if it's not any of these letters over here, it means that the sound on the noon is going to be read, it's going to be a light nasal sound. So because noon is followed by qaf, it's not one of those letters where the noon will be read clearly. So we will read that as qutilan qalabtum. So that lang sound, that nasal sound really has to come through when you're joining the lam to the noon sakin. And again, we're going to hold that sound for 2 seconds. So again, we did qaf, we remember that, that's a thick letter. Again, we have with our ba sakin, this is where we're going to produce that jerking sound. So qalabtum, lab, so that ba needs to be vibrated slightly when reading it. The next point, I think this is slightly misplaced, so it should be up here. But this is an example of our mad saghir. So this is extended elongation. We have simple elongation of 2 seconds with our madda letter and also our leen letter. Here we have extended elongation of at least 3 seconds, but can be up to 5 seconds. So ala, so 3 to 5 seconds over there. We have alif highlighted, which is just going to be joined with this ayn. So it's important here. We have alif and ayn which need to be differentiated. So you have to articulate each letter from the appropriate part of the throat. So alif is simple, ayn takes a bit more effort, and a slight jerk because the ayn is carrying a sukoon over here. Then we have qaf, we said was thick, joined to alif madda, so this is simple elongation again, madda asli. 1 second bar, and then we are joining qaf with dhamma with the meme sakin. And it's important to note over here, this meme will not be prolonged. The sound won't be produced in a nasal sound. There will be no pausing on there. It'll just be very simple, bikum, very simple, no prolongation or anything there. Again, we have our example of a perfect pause or a meaningful pause. So it is a good place to pause according to the meaning of how this part of the verse reads. But again, it is optional, it's not compulsory. So if you wish, you can take a pause over here. So again, I'll attempt to read this and then I'll ask a few of you to read as well. أَفَإِن مَّاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم. So if I select this time L250, and you can have a go at reciting. Assalamu alaikum, L250.
Walaikum assalam.
Would you like to have a go at reading?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم.
Excellent, that's good. Jazakallah, thank you very much. Let's have L246. Assalamu alaikum, L246.
Walaikum salam.
Would you like to have a go at reciting as well?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Afa immata aw qutilan qalabtum ala aqabikum.
Okay, Jazakumullah. There was some echo there, but as far as I could hear, the recitation was fine. So thank you, L246. Let's have one more person. So if we have L234. Assalamu alaikum, L234.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Could you have a go at reciting this, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم.
Jazakumullah, that was really well read. Thank you very much, L234. So mashallah, really good recitations of those that I've heard so far. Let's move on now to the fourth part of the verse. So again, we have a mixture of our basic and more advanced rules. We have to begin with an example of partial assimilation. So before we had as well over here, we had the opposite here. So we had complete assimilation here, where the noon sound is completely assimilated into the mim mushaddad. This time we have partial assimilation. So this means that when we merge these two letters together, we will slightly hear a light ghunna or a light nasal sound. So that means we will read it as wa man. So not completely clear noon, but partial noon is heard when merging with the ya mushaddad over here. The next point over here is that we produce a nasal sound, because again we have noon sakin, which is followed by qaf. So because it is not any of these letters above, the light nasal sound will be created when we join the ya mushaddad with the noon. So that will be yanqalib. Qaf again over here will be thick, and we have another example of our qalqala rule where we have the ba sakin, which will be vibrated, or a jerking sound will be produced. So yanqalib. Following this, we have our simple elongation, because we have our vertical fatha, which is on the lam here. So this will be ala, 2 seconds. Qaf again is our thick letter, one of our advanced rules. We have over here another example of ya lean. So this will be, I think the box has been missed here, but this will be 2 seconds. We are going to be, it will be a soft elongation. So it will be as aqibayhi, bay. So this will be 2 second prolonging here. He is just 1 second basic here, 1 second on the fa. We have another example like we had over here, partial assimilation. We have also here partial assimilation. So we hear a light nasal sound when we merge the noon sakin with the ya mushaddad. So it will be falayya, falayya. So nasal sound produced when merging this. Again, this is one of our basic rules. After this, we have the letter dhad, which is a thick letter, and ra also, which also bears a shadda. So not only is it a thick letter, we also want to stress that because of the shadda. This lam mushaddad, which is in the middle of the word Allah, this is going to be read in a thick manner, and the reason for that is because the letter which is joining with it before carries the stroke of fatha. And if we go back to our lesson, our first lesson in the first week that we covered, it was regarding thick letters, and particularly in the lam mushaddad, which comes in the word Allah. So if you remember when we learnt that if it's preceded by a kasra, then it will be thin. So billahi. If it's preceded by fatha or dhamma, it will be thick. So qala Allahu and kitabullahi. So lam in both of with a preceded by dhamma and also fatha is thick. So because we have fatha on the ra mushaddad, it will also be thick. So it will be as فَلَن يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ رَاللَّهَ. So thick lam mushaddad. Again, we have over here, we have a ya lean, 2 second soft elongation. So this will be shay, shay, and then over here, because if we are going to make a pause over here, this is in relation to our 10 cases of waqf, which you should have hopefully memorized, where the fathatain on the alif, this is going to be on pausing, this is going to be prolonged for 2 seconds. So it will be shay, 2 seconds, shay. So this shay and this they should be prolonged for an equal amount of time. Again, this is when pausing. So if you were to continue, it would be read as shay'an, and then whatever follows after that. But if we are going to pause over here, because this is a place where it's a perfect pause or a meaningful pause, it will be read as shay'a. So again, I'll read through it once, and then I will ask somebody to have a go at reciting. وَمَنْ يَنْقَلِبْ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا. So this time, if I take L2 to 2 to have a go at reciting. Assalamu alaikum, L222. Assalamu alaikum, L222.
Assalamu alaikum, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, yeah. Would you like to have a go at reciting this?
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا.
Okay, good. Just over here, when joining this with the noon sakin, just try to make that nasal sound come through. Yanqalib.
Yanqalib.
Good. So we don't want it to be completely clear as yan, but kind of partially heard. Yanqalib.
Yanqalib.
Excellent. Yeah. Do you want to have a go one more time reading through? Just bearing in mind the gunna sound here.
Okay, I can't hold my voice that long, so is there like, could I break it up?
Yeah, just for the purpose of exercise, because it's quite long. Yeah, you could take a breath just for the purpose of practice here.
Okay. وَمَن يَنقَلِبْ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَن يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ شَيْئًا.
Okay, good. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much, L222. Let's have one more person. So if I take L235. Assalamu alaikum, L235.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Could you please recite the verse here, the part of the verse here?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا.
Okay, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. That was good recitation as well. Let's move to the final part of the verse, and then we'll have a go at reciting the whole thing. So we have 1 second waw because of the fatha. We have 1 second sin because of the fatha, wasa. Then we have, again, our advanced rule. So let's go back to our letters, which we vibrate. We have qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal. So in this case, we have the example of jim sakin coming in the middle of the word. So we will produce a jerking sound or a vibration on that jim. So it will be wasayajizi, wasayajizi. So that is the second point. After that, we have za. So if we remember, we have to always try to look ahead when we're thinking about our recitation to anticipate which rules we're going to be focusing our attention on. So we have the za over here, and it bears the stroke of kasra, and we're going to be joining it with the lam mushaddad, which occurs in the word Allah. So as I mentioned, the rule that we covered in week 1 is that because this lam mushaddad is preceded by the kasra, this we read as a thin lam. So it will not be zillahu, but zillahu. وَسَيَجْزِلَّهُ. So just bear in mind the thinness of the lam mushaddad here. Following that, we have the ha, which carries the stroke of dhamma, and again we are joining it to the sheen mushaddad over here. Now, 2 things to bear in mind. First of all, we have the vertical fatha on the sheen, which means simple elongation, 2 seconds. But also we want to put stress when joining the ha with the sheen. So it will be husha, husha, altogether, Allahu shakirin. So bear in mind the stress and the timing on the sheen mushaddad. And finally over here we have again our ya madda, ya carrying the sukoon. And here again you have the 2 options, so you can either do simple elongation of 2 seconds, or during your recitation, sometimes in the tune, you can prolong it for up to 4 seconds at the end of the verse. So just a few rules here to bear in mind. It is a little bit shorter, but do consider that we will be reciting this whole thing entirely, so there'll be quite a few things to remember. So if I just read once all the way through, and then I'll ask somebody to read as well. وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ. So this time I'll try and pick somebody different. If I can have L238. Assalamualaikum L238. Could you please recite the final part of the verse?
وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ.
That's great, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. If anyone would like to volunteer recitation, you can also raise your hand. I've got L248, so let's try. I don't seem to be able to unmute you, L248, because it's showing up that you don't have a microphone for some reason. Okay, let's try someone else then. L220, Assalamualaikum. Would you like to recite the following part of the verse?
Yeah. وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ الشَّاكِرِينَ.
That's great, Jazakumullah. Thank you, L220. L219, would you like to have a go?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
Okay, perfect. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. So let's move to the full verse, recitation of the full verse. So if I just lower everybody's hands, and if I can get a volunteer who would like to read the full thing. Okay, let's have L224. Assalamualaikum L224.
Walaikum salam.
Yep, you can start from here, please.
Okay. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
Okay, Jazakumullah. So the points that I highlighted, timing-wise, was fine. There were no issues with timing. The only points that I highlighted were those relating to the light nasal sound, which should be produced on the Nun Sakin. So we have over here min qablihi. So we want a light ghunna there, and also here أو قتل انقلبتم. So لانقلبتم. We want to pause there a little bit, and also a light nasal sound. And again over here ومن ينقلب. So if you just recite first of all from this portion over here in the first line.
قد خلت من قبله.
Okay, try to make it less of a clear noon, but kind of like a hidden noon.
قبله.
من قبله.
من قبله.
And also remember, also we want to vibrate the ba sakin. من قبله.
من قبله.
Good, that was a lot better. And if you read this portion over here.
Okay. أو قتل انقلبتم.
Okay, good. Again, remember, ba is going to be vibrated. أو قتل انقلبتم.
أو قتل انقلبتم.
Okay, and over here as well.
ومن ينقلب.
Again, try to make it a softer noon. وَمَن يَنْقَلِبْ.
Okay. وَمَن يَنْقَلِبْ.
Okay, Good. And the final point that I highlighted was just to remember that lam mushaddad, because it's preceded by the ra, which carries the fatha stroke, it's going to be thick. So فَلَنْ يَضُرَّ اللَّهَ
فلن يضر الله الله.
Okay, that's fine. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. Let's have L217. Assalamu alaikum, L217. Would you like to have a go at reciting the full verse?
Yeah, walaikum salam. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
Jazakumullah, that was really well done. Can you just recite from here onwards? I think the meme was just slightly too long, so just remember to keep it short when reading on the meme sakin.
أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم.
Okay, good. And also just remember, rather than reading it as qa, we want to make it thick. So أعقابكم.
أعقابكم.
Good. And also the kha over here to remember to keep it thick. قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. That was really well read. L217. Let's have one more person and then we will listen to one of the recordings. So L2. L229. Assalamu alaikum, L229.
Walaikum assalam.
Would you like to have a go at reciting?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل أفإن مات أو قتل انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا وسيجزي الله الشاكرين.
Jazakallah. Just read this part again for me and also make the kha a little bit thicker. So rather than khalat, khalat.
قد خلت من قبله الرسل.
Okay. And also just try to sustain that nasal sound a little bit longer. من قبله.
من قبله.
Okay, Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah, all that have come forward to recite. Let's go to our, before we move on actually, I forgot to mention at the end of last week's session, if you do really try to memorize the verses that we're doing in our recitation analysis. So just a reminder of last week's one was over here regarding the death of Hazrat Jesus alayhi salam, chapter 5 verse 76. and also today chapter 3 verse 145. So please do try to make an effort to revise these verses, so that will essentially be your homework each week, to try to revise all of the content that we've covered. If I go to, so we are doing in your classes, you're doing Surah Ibrahim. Let me just go to the relevant page. So that is 256. And we will listen to one or two of the recordings in the last few minutes of the lesson. So I'm going to take L233 if we listen to yours. If I just open that in the iTunes so I can pause it.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور.
So I'm just going to pause and just check. L233 is here. Okay, I don't think she's in this lesson, so I'll just, I think it makes more sense to have someone who's in the lesson, so I can give them feedback directly. So let's do instead L235. So if we listen to yours instead, we can do L233 at another point.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف كتاب أنزلناه إليك لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد الله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وويل للكافرين من عذاب شديد.
So if I just pause at this point, the point that's been highlighted over here, this is just to make sure that the lam mushaddad in the word Allah here is a thick sound, because we are applying the stroke of fatha on this blank alif over here, so it will be Allahilladhi. And the other point over here was on the kasratain, because it's followed by a sheen, we are going to produce a light nasal sound. So it will be عذاب شديد. Continue.
الذين يستحبون الحياة الدنيا.
So just over here, it's not a major point, but again, just trying to make the ha sound over here a little bit stronger, because we want to differentiate it from the different ha. So يستحبون الحياة الدنيا.
حياة الدنيا على الآخرة ويصدون عن سبيل الله ويبغونها عوجا أولئك في ضلال بعيد.
This lam over here was read a little bit thick, so you want the wad over here to be thick, but the lam should be thin. So في ضلال بعيد. So thick and thin on the lam.
وما أرسلنا من رسول إلا بلسان قومه ليبين لهم فيضل الله من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء وهو العزيز الحكيم. ولقد أرسلنا موسى بآياتنا أن أخرج قومك من الظلمات إلى النور وذكرهم بأيام الله.
So over here, because the lam mushaddid is preceded by a kasra, it will be a thin lam. بأيام الله rather than millahi, millah. We are just going to pause it there, and we will continue in next week's lesson, inshallah. Don't worry if your recording hasn't been heard yet. If we don't get a chance to listen to it in these classes, we will be emailing you individually feedback on your recitation. So you'll be sent a PDF like this with whatever points of feedback they'll be highlighted for you. So you will get some sort of feedback, inshallah, even if we can't listen to you in these classes. So Jazakumullah for your attention this lesson. Just one point as well I wanted to raise. On the NQC website, if you go to courses, Al-Tarteel and the Tarteel course over here, and then you click Tarteel classes, Tarteel course lessons. This is going to take you to the recitation analysis exercises, which are going to be uploaded. This one at the moment just needs a correction because the reference is wrong. It should say chapter 5. So the correct version will inshallah be uploaded. But these will basically be put on the website for you to download, so you can keep referring back to the rules of recitation that we've gone through. So the one that we've done this lesson as well will inshallah be uploaded, and you can access that all online. So Jazakumullah, everyone, for attending. I will take one final person to read our concluding prayer, and then we will end our session. So if I have L240. Assalamu alaikum, L240.
240.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Could you please recite the concluding prayer?
Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم ارحمني بالقرآن العظيم. Translation as well?
If you could do the second line as well, and then you can do
okay. واجعله لي إماما ونورا وهدى ورحمة. And now the translation?
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay. O Allah, have mercy on me through the great Quran and make it for me the leader, the light, the guidance and the mercy.
Jazakumullah. Jazakumullah. Thank you very much. And inshallah, see you all in next week's lesson. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.